Greetings, you're on the Bible Forum. This is Warren Sprouse. I'm your host and your guide. I'm here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. live and the rest of the week on the video. You can tune in from our website, thebibleforum.net, or you can just click on the video screen on the website and watch last week's show. You can click on that screen again and go to the YouTube page and look at the last 400 articles that we've done. We've been doing this for 17 years. We're glad that you're here. I want to talk to you a little bit about this inauguration, this election cycle, and all that went through it. In the broadest sense, we just demonstrated the political and social wisdom of the founders. Over 200 years, they knew what was going on. It's called the peaceful transfer of power. Now, there are other countries who do this as well. Of course, the majority of them are all Western nations or Eastern nations who have been heavily influenced by Western thought and practice. I'm thinking of India, Pakistan, and even occasionally Russia in a weird sort of way. It's that word power that concerns traditional Americans. We're told that the U.S. is a democracy, which is not true. The United States of America has never been a democracy, ever. There are forces trying to make it a democracy. We'll talk about that later on, but it is not a democracy. We're also told that the United States has a political class, and I believe that it does, but it ought not to. Now, we learn in school, or at least we used to, about the Federalist Papers, which pretty much goes over our head and into the memory hole. And then later we're confronted by a huge political machine operating on a national level, largely determining who will and who will not be elected to public office. And that's when we start to pay attention. Who holds the power in these United States? The answer is you do. The electorate. Who wields the power in the United States? Well, that's a relatively few elites, men and women you've largely never heard of. Well, what is that called? That doesn't sound like a democracy. No, that's an oligarchy. That's the rule of a few. We'll come back to this in more detail later on. But for now, I want you to know that it's a relative few, due to the size of this country, who control what happens. Upper class men and women who are overrepresented on boards and organizations. Directors who are part of an inner circle of power. Nonprofit foundations, which have a hand in creating the framework of society one way or another. Think tanks and policy discussion organizations have the most direct and important influences. Public relations organizations and departments of corporations have the most influence upon media and public opinion. And all of these together help shape the framework of society and politics. And they are all linked together, philosophically, politically, and organizationally. Have you ever heard of the Bilderberg Group? Have you ever heard of Bohemian Grove? These are organizations and retreat type things where thousands of the elite of the world are invited, and they make special care that we understand that no policy decisions are being made here. This is purely academic, and in case of the Bohemian Grove out in California, it's recreational. But all of these things are bonding experiences, cultivating experiences, educational experiences, and often more. Officially, in regard to the Bohemian Cove, this 2,700-acre virgin redwood grove in North California, 75 miles north of San Francisco, is where the rich, the powerful, and their entourage visit with each other during the last 2 weeks of July while camping out in cabins and tents. Only the men, no women. It's an Elks Club for the rich, a fraternity party in the woods, a Boy Scout camp for old guys, complete with an initiation ceremony, a totem animal, it's an owl, and a whole lot of stuff that is reminiscent of satanic whatever. It's owned by the Bohemian Club, which was founded in San Francisco in 1872. The Bohemians started going on their little retreat shortly after the club was founded. It became big time by the 1880s, and it continues today. Contemporary reports indicate a large emphasis on homosexuality and the occult. There are no phones, no internet, no technology of any kind for 2 weeks. And did I tell you it was by invitation only? Highly private, highly secretive. Why? Well, like the Bilderberg Society, which was denied for years as even existing, the Bohemian Club cultivates relationships between the truly powerful in this country. Like the Masonic Lodge, that relationship may very well take precedent over policy or even law should the circumstance warrant. Now, our form of government is established to avoid just this kind of thing. But human nature is stronger. Remove the love of God. Remove objective moral standards and commitments. Remove accountability. Remove reality. Education, news, the Bible. And you have a functional oligarchy masquerading as a republic with leadership dominated by a shadow authority rather than the vote of ordinary people. Now, the people can sway elections in unexpected ways, but the players are all part of the system. So a swing one way or another is not as complete as it appears, and the opposition is able to swing it back over the next 4 to 8 years given circumstances. However, the steady march is always toward domination by a few, perhaps one day, domination by one. Now, Donald Trump is far from being an outsider to all of this. His only redeeming quality is his rebellious nature. The system doesn't control him like it does others, but he is still very much a part of the system. He is basically a profane man. He is not a biblical Christian by definition, although there have been 2 or 3 people who say they have personally led him to the Lord. One was Paula White. You saw her. She's a charismatic pastorix. She prayed at the inauguration. Another, I was told just this week, was Dobson. He says it. It's possible. But he hasn't demonstrated anything of late. He's not a political conservative, never has been. And he is an opportunist, a fiscal conservative where his own finances are concerned. And he's definitely a doer, par excellence. He also appears to be a man very much concerned about the future of this country. Why? We don't know. Perhaps it's his family. There's no doubt that he cares deeply about that family. Where will the Donald take us? I think initially he'll take us out of debt, out of dependence, out of global cabals. He will no doubt change the landscape of America and the world. Think Russia, Israel, China, Islam. What armies can never do, a good economist with power can. If America is strong financially, morally, militarily, she can have a tremendous influence over the other nations who want or need her. but never assume that influences real support or love for America. It never has been. It never will be. Human beings are self-centered and immoral at heart. Donald Trump can and will leave the scene, and in so doing leave a vacuum, which can easily, more easily than not, create a void into which will flow all the old evils, and worse. It may be that God is setting things up for just such a scenario. A last glorious upswing that will come crashing down in the great defeat that is known as the tribulation. We don't know. But we are called upon to be alert, to be awake, and to be prepared. You put your hope in a man, and you may almost always be disappointed.